Thorpe Park Fright Nights. It's not going to be what you may have expected this year. With the opening of the UK's tallest roller coaster on the horizon, there's been much anticipation for Fright Nights as it acts as a brilliant opportunity for the park to reveal some more clues regarding what this exciting new addition could entail. The full Fright Nights 2023 lineup has since been unveiled, and it really does beg the question of whether there are enough new additions for it to be worth your time and money. So here I am to tell you everything you need to know surrounding Fright Nights so that you can decide whether or not to visit Thorpe Park during this year's Halloween season. I'm going to give you an overview of what you need to be aware of surrounding ticketing, as well as dissect the full lineup consisting of scare mazes, scare zones and shows. So Thorpe Park have actually made some changes to ticketing for this year's Fright Nights event. In the past, from when mazes open at 3 PM to when they close at 9 PM, they've been priced at the same price regardless of when you do them. However, during this year's event, they're going to be priced at a lower price of £8 between 3 PM and 6 PM, when pass holders can get a discount for £6.40, and at £10 between 6 PM and 9 PM with no pass holder discount available. I should also mention that as of recording, individual maze tickets are not available to purchase. However, since the full lineup has now been unveiled, I expect that they will be available very soon. However, you can buy the Terrifying Trio package which the park are bringing back this year, in which you get all 3 scare mazes. And again, you can either buy a 3 PM to 6 PM package for a lower cost than a 6 PM to 9 PM package, but be aware that obviously you do have to do all 3 mazes within your allocated time slot. And the park are even trialling a scare maze pass exclusively for 200 pass holders, and these people will have unlimited access to all 3 scare mazes throughout the entirety of Fright Nights between 3 PM and 6 PM. Now on the surface, this may all sound good, that you can get mazes for a lower price than you could previously between 3 PM and 6 PM, as they used to cost £10 regardless of when you did them. However, my worry is that they're going to be toned down, because why else would they charge a lower price between those times? I just don't understand it really. I just know from Chessington World of Adventures in the past that they've done that, and they're also a Merlin Entertainment Zone park similar to Thorpe Park, so I hope that this isn't one of these things corporately that's been transferred across attractions. Because if I do get the chance to visit Thorpe Park Fright Nights, which hopefully I do this year, I live 4 hours away and I'm going to have to travel back obviously after attending the event. So I'm not going to be able to stay until when the park closes at 9 PM, because otherwise I'll arrive at silly o'clock in the morning. So I'm probably going to have to leave around about 6 o'clock. And if I find out that the actors are going harder between 6 PM and 9 PM to scare people because they pay more, I'm going to be really annoyed with Thorpe Park, because it's not my fault that I have to leave at 6 PM because I live 4 hours away. And people will say, you know, stay overnight so you can stay until 9 PM. Well, I'm sorry, but that costs money. And it honestly wouldn't surprise me if Thorpe Park are doing this so that people do suspect that they're going to be more intense between 6 PM and 9 PM. So they pay that higher price and then pay even more money to stay in the Thorpe Shark cabins. I've probably got really carried away with this, like I do with a lot of things, but regardless, if you are a scare actor due to work at Thorpe Park Fright Nights this year, then please scare the absolute hell out of me in the mazes, because it'll make me really happy, it'll make my day, and it will make me keep my sanity. If you are a non-pass holder like myself though, and you're planning to visit the park and do all the mazes from 6 PM to 9 PM, it's going to cost you a whopping £69, like, jeez! Sorry to disappoint you, but I think I'll pass on those late night scares. Onto the attraction lineup itself, and this is the 3rd year of Jack Silkstone and Kieran Adams Productions reveal trailers. For those of you who've been living under a rock, Jack Silkstone is obviously a massive UK theme park YouTuber, and Kieran's essentially his mate. The first year they did the teasers in 2021, we had this Fear character in his office and this camera zooming into a TV screen and the full lineup being revealed. And then last year we had a locksmith opening doors, and behind each door would be revealed a Fright Nights attraction, and they all had immersive storylines and they were all very high quality productions. And then this year we had this toy maker woman in a toy store who, for each Fright Nights reveal, would put a toy in a box. And in the case of returning attractions, we'd see a generic montage of clips from last year's Fright Nights of people going through the attractions with no storyline whatsoever. So very much a reduction in production quality, lads. I'm not impressed. So right off the bat, when I started to see the first few teasers, it didn't exactly create a good impression for me for the event. because it's suggesting that it's going to be more half-arsed than last year. Anyway, the first of these not-so-great teasers to be unveiled was for Death's Doors, which was obviously a scare zone at last year's event in which you'd knock on doors and actors would scare you, essentially. It's not exactly a surprise that it's back for this year, but it's great to see, as I think it's good for people who don't feel quite up to doing the mazes, because it provides an opportunity for them to get scared regardless, and overall it was just a really fun attraction to go through. And the park have teased that there will be some new characters making their way to the attraction this year. Last year, the characters within the attraction were mostly themed around the 4 seasons of the year. As much as I enjoyed this theme, I wouldn't say no to them switching it up to perhaps be around, you know, Thorpe Park rides and attractions, for example. And thankfully there's been no confirmation yet that Death's Doors is going to be a paid attraction, as was rumoured last year, so hopefully that means I won't have to say, "Merlin, you money grabbing knobhead," when I hopefully visit the park during this year's event. Next up to be revealed was Trailers, a staple scare maze at Thorpe Park that's been around for 3 years now, themed to a retro cinema. This attraction obviously has a very special place in my heart because it was actually the first ever scare maze I ventured into, and it really is what started my love for that style of attraction. So if you've never been in a scare maze before and you're quite intimidated by going in one, then I definitely recommend you go and try out Trailers first, because it's not that scary. And if you don't like it, you never have to go in a scare maze again. And that's the ultimate worst case scenario. I am pretty disappointed in Thorpe Park though regarding this one. Not because the attraction's returned, but because they've confirmed that no changes are going to be made to it. The park themselves have even said that Trailers is designed in such a way that it's very easy to swap out the theming from a room and replace it with new theming as the maze ages, to keep it going and keep it new and exciting over time. But it's been around for 3 years now and no changes have been made to it since it opened, which in my eyes is just very poor and lazy. So if you've done Trailers before and you're planning to go in it again this year, then be aware that you're just going to be experiencing the same old, same old. This reveal was then followed by the Crows and Mawkin Meadow, aka the worst scare attraction at last year's event. I'm not mad about this though, because as I said in my speculation video, I was expecting for this to come back, and it seems like the park are making a lot of changes to it this year. Obviously with the queue line for Soar Alive having gone, which was an old scare maze at the park, this leaves more room for the Crows to roam about and hopefully get to guests a bit easier, because essentially about halfway through the maze you had a fork in the road to the Soar Alive bit, and if you went to the right you'd go through the queue line cattle pen and you'd continue on the main path if you went to the left, and they had the same actors managing the guests in the cattle pen as they did on the path, and it just didn't work at all. So I am up for giving this scare zone another go. I mean, it is free of charge after all, but please be aware it only opens from 5 PM onwards, and the park have actually confirmed that the Crows are going to be roaming from 3 PM to 5 PM, acting as a kind of roaming team, if you will. The park haven't confirmed an official roaming team for this year other than the Crows, which means from 5 PM onwards there's going to be assumingly no roamers at all. And again, I feel that this is really lazy of them. Like, they could at least do something like I suggested in my speculation videos, such as having some characters themed to the theme of Exodus roaming the park, teasing that as some good marketing, but oh no, nothing announced. It is worth noting though that in the past Thorpe Park have brought in surprises to Fright Nights that have not officially been announced, such as Legacy last year, which was a fire and light show, and by the way they have confirmed that that will not be returning for this year because it was only brought in to celebrate the 20th and 21st anniversaries of Fright Nights. But you never know, we may get a surprise roaming team for this year. We can only hope. Next up to be announced to be returning, and again very surprisingly, was Survival Games, the new maze for last year. And thankfully Thorpe Park have confirmed that unlike with Trailers, some changes will be made to Survival Games for this year. As I said in my speculation video, this maze is a free flow maze, so there's no set route that you go through it, unlike with other mazes such as Trailers, for example. There's multiple paths that you can essentially take through it, either of your own accord or because you've been forced by actors to go a certain way. And that obviously comes with actors being able to touch you. So it is a very intense maze, but only if you do encounter actors similar to the Crows with Mawkin Meadow, which is also an attraction that has multiple pathways. The issue comes with there not being enough actors in there a lot of the time, supposedly, to scare guests going each and every way. So in terms of the changes that Thorpe have confirmed are going to be made to it for this year, I hope some of those are surrounding the backstage areas that actors can use to get to guests and scare them, along with the routes themselves that guests can traverse, such that more guests can have a positive experience in there. And then the following day, this video was released. Honestly, I could not believe it. After much speculation that last year's graduation ceremony at Amity High would mean that Amity and Lycan would not be returning to Thorpe Park Fright Nights again, Thorpe Park only went and confirmed that Amity and Lycan will be teaming up in the brand new scare zone, which is going to be known as Creature Campus Troubles Brewing. Amity vs Lycan Thorpe was a scare zone that ran at Thorpe Park Fright Nights between 2019 and 2022. In 2019, it was just Amity High students, with Amity High being an American high school, and 2020 is when they brought in the Lycan Thorpe High School. In the Stealth Plaza, you essentially had a stage where the Amity and Lycan Thorpe students would perform a flash mob every couple of hours, and in between shows, the actors would roam occasionally and interact with guests, etc. But Thorpe Park have confirmed that for this year, the scare zone is going to be rebranded to a university, or college as Americans call it. You know, Americans will say, oh, I'm going to college to get a college degree, but they're essentially going to university. Amity and Lycan was one of, if not the most popular things at Thorpe Park Fright Nights, and I think it's brilliant fan service that they've decided to keep it going in a new form, because for the new Creature Campus Zone, we're set to see the addition of some witches on top of the existing vampires and werewolves of Amity and Lycan. Who knows, they may change the existing flash mob format where the actors are dancing to well-known songs and there's little bits of story here and there. I personally love the flash mob format, so I'd be happy for it to stay the same. It's not like it ever gets old, because they always change up the show completely year on year. The sixth and final box to be filled by the toy maker was for a brand new scare zone replacing Birthday Bash, which is going to be known as Lucifer's Lair. Now, I have mixed feelings about this, because I feel like it's a massive missed opportunity of the park not to make an Exodus themed scare zone, or just any kind of attraction for that nature. Like, you've got the tallest roller coaster in the UK, which is beating a record that has been held for 30 years, opening next year, and you haven't even bothered to make anything Fright Nights related. Like, what is this? Anyway, this scare zone is set to be themed to the underworld, and is going to be ran by the Lord of Darkness, who you may recognise from Oblivion at Alton Towers. I know, this is such a weird choice, like, what the hell, Thorpe Park? It does sound kind of cool, I guess. You're apparently going to get the chance to meet Lucifer, who's obviously going to be one of the actors in the zone. There's going to be shows on stage, quite musical oriented by the sounds of it, like rock bands and stuff, so it could create a really good atmosphere around the area outside what is now known as Ghost Train. The park have confirmed that this zone is going to have fire incorporated, because it's the underworld.
Well, duh.
And there's going to be loads of roaming actors about between shows and whatnot, so I guess it's going to be quite similar to Creature Campus, to be honest. But I really was disappointed when I saw this reveal, knowing that this is the penultimate attraction to be announced.
Now, lights on, no toying around, and let the fun begin.
Surely if you're a toy maker making toys and putting them in boxes in a toy emporium, you're going to be doing that for a reason, right? Well, yes, that was being done for a reason, because it turns out the toy maker is set to open this toy emporium as a brand new scare maze at Thorpe Park, which is going to be known as Stitches. This scare maze is set to be located in a very large marquee that has been erected over the past month opposite Rush in the Lost City area of Thorpe Park. I tell you what, when I first saw this teaser, which is almost 3 minutes in length, I took everything back I'd said about Jack and Kieran doing a half-arsed job for the Fright Nights teasers this year, because this teaser is incredibly extravagant. I can't imagine the lengths they went to build the sets for this thing, considering the maze hasn't even been completed yet. Thorpe Park have confirmed that this is going to be a linear scare maze similar to trailers, meaning you're going to get to explore every nook and cranny of the marquee. The fact it's not going to be free flow means there's not going to be forks in the road where you can choose different paths to go on, or actors will be able to force you down different paths. So I expect it to be on the longer end. They've also confirmed that actors may touch you in this maze, meaning it's likely going to be scarier in trailers because actors don't touch in trailers. And they've also teased this gimmick of that things are going to move when the lights are off, but when the lights come on, things are going to be static. So I imagine this is going to be themed to some sort of haunted toy emporium, Howell's Toy Emporium, they've confirmed to be exact, where toys move when the lights are off and are static when the lights are on, and those toys are obviously going to be live actors. I'm just getting the vibe that this maze is going to be one of those visually extravagant, theatrical kind of scare mazes. If you've ever done a scare maze, you'll get what I mean, and we already have that with trailers, and I just don't really find those types of mazes scary, to be honest. So if you are watching this in the future, Thorpe Park Fright Nights actors, and you know you're going to be acting in stitches, then please make sure to scare the hell out of me, because generally speaking, I'm more scared by things such as sounds and tight spaces, which we got a lot of in Creep Freak Massacre, which this maze has replaced in the lineup, which is another reason I find it odd that they've not gone down more of that route, which they could have done if they made an Egyptian themed Exodus teaser maze. And in terms of whether I think it's still worth visiting Fright Nights this year, yes I do. Don't get me wrong, I am a bit disappointed with this year's lineup because I feel like the park have missed quite a few opportunities with it, and I feel they've been a little bit lazy in some areas, as I've expressed over the past few minutes. But it's not like that you have to pay for all three mazes and you can't pay for them individually. So if you've done trailers before, it's not like you have to pay for it again and experience the same thing. You can always do survival games and see the changes, and stitches as well. And you're going to get to see Amity High again in a new form, so that's going to be exciting. You've got Lucifer's Lair as well, which I'm sure will provide some brilliant scares. Changes in Death's Doors and Mawkin Meadow, and all of that can be done for free on top of the park admission ticket. I do understand though that Project Exodus is a very expensive investment, hence the reason why they've likely cut corners, and it'll be worth it in the end because Project Exodus is a very exciting investment for Thorpe Park, which is why you should go and watch this video on the right side of your screen, in which I give you all the latest information and updates surrounding its development. And for more things theme park related in the UK and beyond, make sure you click the icon in the centre of your screen to subscribe to ThrillNet. And for more information surrounding Thorpe Park Fright Nights, be sure to check out the link I've put for you down below in the description.